Lord is with you.
And also with you.
We continue listening to God speak to us from the gospel in the tradition of Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said, "For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, look, a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Yet wisdom is vindicated by her deeds." Jesus also prayed, "Abba, God of heaven and earth, to you I offer praise. For what I have hidden from the learned and the clever, you have revealed to the youngest children. It is true, God, because you have graciously willed it so. You have given everything over to me. No one knows me but you, and no one knows you but the one whose eyes..." Oh boy. Sorry about that. "No one knows me but you, and no one knows you, loving God, except me and those to whose eyes are open. Come to me, all you who labor and find life burdensome, and I will refresh you. Take my yoke upon your shoulders and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart. And you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And this is the gospel, the good news of our salvation.
Praise you, Lord Jesus Christ.
By the words of the gospel, may our sins be blotted out.
Amen.
Amen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was going to sit and do the homily, but I don't feel like the Pope yet. Anyway. Many years ago when I was in seminary, I had a professor of homiletics that said that sometimes it's good to start off with a little joke. It gets the people attentive and what are you going to say? So, once upon a time, there was a minister and a priest, and they were walking up and down the road with signs, and one said, "Change your way." The other one said, "The end is near." So they were walking up and down this country road, and all of a sudden there was a guy in a big truck comes along, a big burly guy. And he stops, he said, "You two losers, why don't you go get a job?" Takes off. Moments later, there's a screeching of brakes, a crash, and a big splash. The minister said to the priest, "Father, do you think we should change our signs just to say, 'Turn around, the bridge is out'?" Words. Words are taken in various ways, and I'm sure that you've heard the term, "It's not what you say, it's how you say it." And that is a very true statement. The gospel today explains Jesus confronted by two groups of individuals. And prior to what Father Joe read, there was this one little section, a verse or two, that said, "How should I liken this generation? They are like children in the marketplace, calling out to one another, saying, 'We piped you a song, but you would not dance. We wailed, and you would not mourn.'" And Jesus uses those terms to describe how people react to the prophets. John the Baptist came neither eating nor drinking, out of the desert, very unkempt, wearing camel's hair. He'd probably be very, very fashionable now in New York City wearing camel's hair. But being that it's made, some kind of skin, and people said he was mad. the Son of Man comes eating and drinking, dining with sinners, and he's a drunkard and a glutton who eats and drinks with sinners and those outside the law. So words mean a lot. They have certain indications, and if you ever studied semantics, you know that words are vehicles by which we express ideas. Without words, we would not be able to communicate with one another. So we develop a language, we develop words that others understand who are within our tribe, within our country, or whatever it might be. And so when you have someone who is from a foreign land coming over, not knowing the language, it's very difficult. Why? Because they cannot communicate with these individuals who are now in communion with them. So their ideas, their thoughts, their needs are not understood. Today Jesus faces the crowd. He says, those who sing and dance, they're the wedding people. On the other hand, you have those who are the funeral people. And neither of these two individuals are going to meet. Have you ever encountered a person who is convinced that whatever thought he has or she has is correct? And there is no logic that is going to convince them otherwise. This is the way it is, and there is no other way. And this is what Jesus confronted. Those individuals who were so attached to the law that there could not be any other way. And Jesus is saying, but I'm not here to destroy the law. I'm here to bring it to fulfillment. You are losing the idea of what law is about. It is not about structure and keeping the word of the law. It's the spirit of the law. Example. We're all old enough to remember that we did not eat meat on Friday. Why? It was the day that Christ died. So we don't eat meat on Friday. Protestants call us fish eaters. But what was behind that? Well, it's a sacrifice, you try to mortify yourself, you try to do whatever. That's the spirit of what that whole thing was. But nothing in the law said you couldn't have a big bowl of bouillabaisse that cost maybe $75 to put together between the shrimps and the lobster and the mussels and the clams and whatever else goes into it. But it had no meat. It had no meat, so we were keeping the law. We were keeping the law. And this is what Jesus is trying to say. When we are looking at the law, we need to look at what it is, the spirit of which that law was created. I don't have to tell you that we find ourselves in our country well divided. And individuals are using words and will not listen to reason or to the other side because their way is right. And there's always been that feeling in our land and in other places, might makes right. So if I have 100 people who think the same way, and you have 25 people who think another way, we are correct. Today Jesus invites us and says, if you are weary, if you are tired, if you are burdened, come to me and I will give you rest. I remember many years ago when I was very young, or younger, I was teaching full-time in a high school. I was doing postgraduate work in education at night, and I was working in the parish on the weekends. And I was at the point where I didn't know where the energy was coming. To the point, and I'll never forget this, I passed a cemetery. And I looked at the graves and I said, only you know what true peace and rest is. Only you know what true peace and rest is. And many times in our liturgy for the dead, we keep on saying, now that their work is done. There's a country song by Vince Gill that says, go rest upon the mountain, son. Your work here now is done. Go forth singing to heaven, the Father and the Son. And that's what Jesus is saying. When he talks about a yoke, he's not talking about an implement for you to take upon your shoulders that's going to cause you even more grief. What he is saying is that I am there to support you in what you're doing. I will give you that rest that no one else can. I will give you that peace that no one else can. So when we are looking at words, when we are thinking about philosophies, when we are trying to live our lives according to our spirit, we have to remember that we are not the arbiters of all truth. And that we must be able to listen. And that's one of the hardest things for us to do. To listen. Why? Because we always have the answer. We've always got the answer. There was a guy that I know back in New Jersey, we used to call him Eddie No-No. And Eddie No-No was a priest of the diocese, and he was working in a special ministry. A very nice guy. But Eddie always had the problem of, if you said, well, I'm going to do that. No, you do it this way. Well, I think I'm going to paint this. No, paint it this color. So we nicknamed him Eddie No-No because whatever you did, whatever you said, Eddie would say no. He had the right answer. And sometimes that's the way we are. We always think we have the right answer, but we don't know the question. We don't know the question because we haven't listened. We haven't listened. We haven't listened to the gospel. Gospel is telling us, come to me if you are overly burdened and I will give you rest. And we say, no, I can do it. I can do it. And Jesus is saying, okay, all right. But I'm still here. I'm still here. As we go through this pandemic, we have to listen to people who are in the know. We have to listen to our medical people who tell us the only way we are going to get over this virus is to wear masks and to keep social distance. Otherwise, it's not going to go away. You know as well as I, viruses are not particular. They don't just go to one person because of color, race, creed, economic standard, or wherever. It goes wherever it can. And it develops wherever it can. And so, as a practical image of what I'm trying to say to you this morning is, we need to listen to the people who are in the know. Put away all those things that we feel we know about. Do away with all those thoughts that we have the answer when we don't know the question. And let us listen to the Lord's invitation. Come to me when you are weary, when you are burdened, and I will give you rest. And that prayer that Jesus addresses to the Father is about you and I. Because it is to you and I that this secret that Jesus has of the Father has been told. Last week we heard it said, whatever you hear in secret, proclaim it to the housetops. We still haven't done that. We still live as if we are independent of everything else. This week, let us listen to what the Lord is saying. Let us listen what people are telling us about whatever it is. And let us believe that we have not the answer, but we have to listen to the question.